Hello and welcome back to Panty of the Geeks. You join us today for have a look at the Silver Bayonet. So this is another war game by Osprey, and this is a game of Napoleonic Gothic horror. So if you haven't seen this, it's not been out that long. It's from the same people that did Stargrave, the same person that did Stargrave, should I say, and Osprey Games, obviously in association with. And what we have here is it's a nice looking book actually. Looks very different from the Stargrave one, and the rules are slightly different from the Stargrave one. We'll have a quick look at the book in this video, and then I'm going to have a look at the two units that I've picked up for it, which is the British unit and the Spanish unit. I got the Spanish in case I could convince Claire to play it. So we'll look at the book first, and then we'll look at the models. So if you've played Frostgrave or Stargrave, you're probably used to this style of book, even though the rules are slightly different. And in this style of book, we basically have very little lore. The background is basically this page, and then the introduction into how you play the game. This is about Gothic horror, so it has your standard sort of werewolves, vampires, goblins, that kind of thing in it. So it doesn't really need an extension of lore in this book. This book's about mechanics. So it gives, if you've never played a war game before, we first start with what you need to play: miniatures, table and terrain, etc. If you have played a war game before, it tells you what kind of tokens you need. We need clue markers and fatigue tokens. It uses 10-sided dice, so you'll need some of those. You roll them in sets of 2 usually, by the looks of the rules, and then add together the result, and that gives you your total. But you'll need 3 different kinds of coloured dice, which is one's for skill, one's for power, and one's for monster. This you've got a few D10s lying around. That's great. If you haven't and you want to get into it, you can pick them off Amazon, pretty cheap, just dice. Your deck of cards, again, if you've not got one, pick it up off Amazon, cheap. And the unit sheet, which is in this book, I just did an Excel sheet, which I'll show you in a moment when we go through the units. A pencil and a measuring device in inches. And then we're straight on to generating a unit already in the book. So this is based on Napoleonic era. So we have, and it's based in Europe. So we have Austria, Britain, France, Prussia, Russia and Spain as main protagonists. Of course, it says in here that you can use one of the other nations that fought. They're not all in here, but you just use the nation that fits closest to the one you want to fight. And this isn't a historically accurate game by any means, so you don't need to worry about how you paint the uniforms. So feel free to go wild and use your imagination, basically. So much like in Stargrave, I'll compare it to that, because that's the most recent one I've really looked at. You create your officer, who would be your captain in Stargrave. Unlike Stargrave and Frostgrave, there's no henchman to go with it, no like apprentice type thing. It's literally your officer and the soldiers. So you create your officer, you start off with these stats, so you get to choose a few different ones. Whether you increase accuracy, health or courage, or melee speed or recruitment value. Which actually, it only increases recruitment value by 5, but it's actually quite useful the way that you recruit things in this, which I'll show you with the Spanish unit. So once you've decided what traits you want to take, you have your new stat sheet, which is speed, melee, accuracy, defense, courage, health and recruitment. So very similar to how you create something in Stargrave. And you have attributes, so you go back to the back of the book and you find yourself some attributes, which are basic skills. And then you decide what equipment you want. Again, these don't cost points or anything. These are just, you're allowed 6 slots, and you've got to choose from general, armory. If you're making an officer, you can choose 4, and then you can choose. Oh, no, this is still the general armour. We've got hand weapons, heavy weapons, improvised fencing, muskets, pistols, rifles, shot bags, volley guns, etc. And all the weapons, pretty much in the game, are on that one table. That's it for now, until they do some expansion. Then you have your special armory. So as a officer, you get to choose 2 of these. Any other soldier gets to choose 1, unless they've got a skill that allows them to take more, like the veteran hunter. So we have cold iron shot and cold iron weapons. These are good against goblins and monsters that don't like cold iron weapons. However, cold iron's brittle. As you can imagine, it's forged and it's going to be pretty brittle. So if you roll 1 on one of your 2 dice when you're rolling it, you miss. If you roll 2 ones, the weapon just breaks. We also have holy symbols, oil and torches, salt, which works against some. You can actually put that on bullets and fire salt-covered bullets at some things. Now we have silver weapons and silver shots, which are kind of like your cold iron, but work on other monsters like werewolves, but also don't have any downside to them. They are silver. So kind of like the Witcher's sword. And then once you've got your officer sorted out, you'll recruit up to 7 other soldiers. And if you've not took any extra recruitment points, you've got 100 points to spend. And you'll spend them quite quickly. But each faction, each country, shall we say, nation, has different people they can recruit. Although there is a special rule on the next page, which allows you to pick one model that's outside your normal list. But they cost extra points. So whether it's worth it or not, but Spain there as well. I'll show you the Spanish one because we're going to have a look at the Spanish one too. Those are the kind of dudes you can get in your Spanish units. So then we have the soldiers, which is Artillerist, Champion of Faith. We have the Damphia. I wouldn't know how you say it properly. It's an Austrian one. Doctor, Grenadier, Guard. That's not Imperial Guard, that's French and Prussian. Heavy Cavalryman, Highlander, my personal favourite so far. Infantrymen, Regulars. We've got junior officers. That's about as close you're going to get to like having your apprentice, sort of like quartermaster kind of sidekick, if you want to take one. And we have light cavalrymen, marines, native scouts, which I hope they do actually. I'd like to see some like American native scouts for some reason. I don't know why they'd be in Europe, but it just said they're brought specifically. But there is a picture in this, and I do have some of those scouts that I got for playing sharps practice, so it'd be quite useful to use them. We also have occultists, riflemen, sailors, sappers, supernatural investigator, swordsmen, who are Prussian and Spanish, tacticians, see that, veteran hunters, and some nice artwork as well. Vivandari, sorry, apologies everyone, there it is. Weber. I can say Weber. Obviously with a picture of a vampire, very nice. And then we have the game's rules. So up to there, that's just creating your crew. And then we have the game's rules. Picture of a scout. That's a picture of the scout. I'm hoping that they do a model like that. That'd be awesome. So all this is about fatigue, melee. I'm not going into this in this. So what we'll probably do is play a game of it and go through it all in depth then. That's probably the easiest way. But you can have cavalry in this game. Whether you want to take a horse or not, might not be a good idea because you're a big target, but there we go. Terror checks, we have terror. Then with the fate pool, which is something that goes on in the background, you've got the extra dice you can use to try and change fate, if you will. And then we're on to re-rolls and the use of monster dice. Which is something I need to really get into in a separate video when we're actually playing the game. And then ending the game. So that's the rules section done. And then we're on to campaigns. So there's not a lot of rules in this. And how to run a campaign, how you get experience. and then the scenarios. So there's 10 scenarios. If you've ever seen a scenario before, they follow the same sort of thing. Gives you a quick overview of what the scenario is. You set up special rules for the scenario, which also sort of includes of what monsters might turn up, and the rewards for playing the scenario. Pretty standard stuff for a War Games book. We should have 10 of those. And then there are rules on, get to it, creating your own scenarios, suggestions on what to do. In addition to creating your own scenarios, we also have solo play. So all the rules for solo play are included in this as well, which is really handy for testing out the game, or if you no one to play with because of various restrictions in whichever country you're in of meeting up, as there has been for quite a while. For whatever reason you just want to, you've got an hour and you want to play on your own, it's fine, there you go, got solo play rules. And here we've got some solo play missions and how you actually go through those and creating scenarios for those. I think one of the ones I might actually run through first is maybe the Wolf Pack one. Because the other thing about this is the only models out at the moment are the 3 units. There's also the 2 I've shown you in the French unit. More will probably be coming out, and I've seen some goblins shown that are coming out. They look pretty cool. But there are like models from Frostgrave that you can use in place, or whatever models you've got in your range. I'm actually probably going to use the Zombicide models from Black Plague, the Wolf add-on. Wolfsburg, is it?
Yes.
I can't remember what it was called. Wolfsburg, yeah. And because you also need werewolves as well for this, so that would cover that quite nicely. But one thing I've yet to do is go through each of the scenarios and try and find out what models I'm going to source for them. But if you've got a model collection already, feel free to just improvise. Same goes for the scenery. And you're looking at, it sort of recommends playing the game on a 3x3 or a 2.5 by 2.5 foot table. But you can play it on any size. I mean, this table I'm filming this on's not quite 2.5 foot, but it's like 8 foot long. So this, I'll probably just play it on this. I probably wouldn't get out any of my big boards to actually play it on. Quite easily just play it on here. And then we have the few scenarios there. And then we've got the beastry. So these are the things you're going to be fighting. So bandits and cultists, personal favourite. I always like playing as cultists. We have dark wolves. I was trying to find the goblins entry. There it is. So to keep talking about goblins. One interesting thing about the goblins is this. So you've got allergy to cold iron, so any cold iron weapons will do more damage. It's got damage resistance, hypnotic. It's got this technology rule, which basically makes it hard to use technology near them as well. So there's a chance like your guns might fail when you're actually firing near them. I wouldn't really say that was goblins, I'd say that was more gremlins to me, but maybe it's the same thing in different cultures. And then we have vampires, vampire bats, werewolves. And at the back we have the attributes, which are your special rules. So, for instance, that's the combat engineer special rule, which my British commander is going to be taking. So a lot of the special rules you can take only apply in certain scenarios. And it's kind of it's one of those strategic things. You take one that only applies in certain scenarios and certain instances, or you take one that applies in more but isn't quite as good. It's one of those trade-offs. So we have a few pages of that, and then we have literally the end of the book, and with the unit sheets which you can photocopy. Again, I just created an Excel version of this, which was as close as possible and bigger, so I could put more entries on. I will show you that when I'm showing you the models. And at the end, we've got little pictures. So one thing we do miss from this, with it being like a sepia coloured book is any of the coloured pictures of models, which is a shame, because I like that in the Stargrave book. But we do have a few at the back, just to show you what some of them look like painted. So there's a big devil in there. It's pretty cool. So that is the book. Almost non-existent lore. It's all game mechanics. But as with the Stargrave one, which was the same, you bring your own lore. So whatever alien infested place you want to play against in Stargrave, you just do that. In this, if you want to play against vampires, then you just play against vampires. So you bring in your own lore to this. So what about the models? Well, British units that. So I shall start with that. So these have just arrived today. And they're still sealed. So you'll get my honest and instant reaction to these. Of whether they're good or not. If I can get out of its slipcase, that'll be a great start. There we go. So just on the back, show you them painted. To show you an idea of what they look like when they're done. And I need Claire to open this with the knife. She sat very quietly in the background. So Thank you very much. Let's see what we get in the box. So we get some bubble wraps. This is cool for playing pop with. Or if you're a Red Dwarf fan, it's a stress paper.
Yeah.
You just need to paint it red. There we go. These are mostly single part models. Yay! A few bits of little flash on them. There we go. So this guy, I believe this is the Artillery Man. Let me just pull out that so I can look at it. This guy, yeah, this is the artillery guy. It's actually a really nice model. There's not a lot to clean up on it. There's a few bits I picked off there. There's a few little bits. You always get metal models. But I'll take metal over most resins any day. Then we have, there's this guy, the Rifleman. This guy is your Rifleman on the box, painted in green, so very much like the 95th rifles from Sharp. He'd be going over the hills and far away. What? This guy is the veteran hunter. This guy just reminds me of like Van Helsing or something like that, but an English version of Van Helsing. He does have the cross around his neck. These aren't WYSIWYG models either, so even though this guy's got an axe and a hammer, you don't have to give him an axe and a hammer. You can give him whatever you want in the rules. And he does have a cross around his neck, so it's useful if you do want your models to represent what you've got. You can give him the holy icon. I think I gave this guy a breastplate. He doesn't actually have that on the model, but it doesn't matter. It's not WYSIWYG. So this guy is a infantryman. He's your standard infantryman. We do have a bit of stuff here off the gate. Oh, it just comes off. That bit will just require clipping off. That shouldn't be a problem. Let me test that. See how thin it is. Get my metal cutters. Yeah, easy. It's not even that thick actually. So I'll take that off. That one needs a little bit of a file down now, and that's done. So that's about the extent of the cleanup on these. A little bit of filing, a little bit of clipping, nothing too intense. We have the Doctor. I believe that's the Doctor's bag, that's a separate part. So that will just go on the base, which are not included, I've noticed. I didn't think they were actually, but that's fine if you've already got some spare bases. Warlord Games plastic bases would do quite nicely. Or there's War Bases UK, which is where I get a lot of stuff from. For doing, I did for the Sharps practice stuff. This guy is the Supernatural Investigator. He's got a book. I didn't actually realise he had a carry case type thing. That was a book at first. But yeah, this guy is the guy who can have like some extra supernatural and supernatural stuff. And then we have, actually have a look at the Highlander. So yeah, I like this model. This guy's cool. He comes with a massive claymore type weapon. And then we have the officer, the leader of it all. And there he is. Yeah. So it's a little bit bent. So I don't think I've seen this bent on these. But with it being metal, that should just bend straight back. It's flat as well. It's more of a scabbard actually. Yeah, he's got a sword, he's got a handle. So yeah, so that's the British models. What I'm going to do is stick them to some of these bases, these wooden ones. I think we'll do just fine. Unfortunately they didn't come with any, but so if you are getting these, they won't stand up on their own, no matter how much you file the bases then. You're probably going to get some bases. Any bases will do. Extra Games Workshop bases, Warlord bases, the plastic ones, or you've got some wooden round ones, anything really. Stick them to it and you're away. I prefer if they didn't have these little bits on the bottom. If you're not going to get the bases, then you'd have the option maybe putting them on clear bases, because it's always an option then. But that's fine. At least with those on, when they're actually on, they'll be easy to stick to a base. Right, so that is the British models. Let's take a look at the Spanish one. Let's get the slip these. So we get some similar models in here. We get the officer, and we get a, I think there's an artilleryman as well on this. Yeah, this guy here. But we get some different ones as well, like the gorilla. That guy's a veteran hunter. This guy's actually got the breastplate on and the holy cross. I've yet to work out my Spanish themed unit anyway. So this guy's a champion of faith. I think this guy's a Sapir, and that's the Swordsman model. Of course, these are the models that are on the back. If you didn't want the Swordsman to be a Swordsman, you wanted him just to be something else, entirely up to you. You just call him whatever you want. As long as you make it clear to whoever you're playing, or you remember what he actually is. Because it's not, what you see is what you get. You can have them with anything. They're all just they're just a representation of it. Okay, so this is the gorilla. She's like a, I don't know, like a partisan fighter against the French, maybe, or for the French. Spanish were pretty split during the Peninsular Wars. So. And then we have the Sapir with a bent axe. That should be easy to fix. And that's the Monster Hunter. I do like this model actually. I think maybe because he has got the breastplate on. The breastplate's actually got claw marks in it. It's pretty cool. I think he's also got a blunderbuss, which is awesome. As well as all his MacGuffin he's got on his back. We have the Swordsman with the funky top hat. Got some flash on there that needs cleaning off. That bit needs filing down on his arm a little bit, not too much. Barely feel, it looks worse than it actually feels, that groove. Maybe the camera's not even picking it up, but this guy's the officer. Yes, in a jaunty pose, arm behind his back. We have the champion of faith. This guy's a monk. So, be interesting what colour I decide to paint his robes. Could be a priest, doesn't have to be a monk. Of faith. I'll ask Claire, she knows more about that kind of thing than me. I think this is the infantryman. Yes. Double check that. He's a standard infantryman. And then we have this guy. Who's this guy? Oh, this guy's the artillery man. Pretty cool. So these are actually really nice models. I'm quite impressed. What does Claire think in the background though?
I think they look really cool actually. Looking at the pictures on the boxes,
yeah,
they look nice looking models, and from what I can see, they've got a lot of character.
They do. That's the main thing about having a skirmish game where you've got so few models. Each model should have a lot of character to it. Some games are quite stringent on what you see is what you get, sort of equipment, and this is just like, no, it's whatever you say they've got. So these models will do fine. These were great actually. Some quite like them. Yeah, so my reaction's good. I'm interested to play the game, and I like these models. I probably would get the French and the goblins when they come out.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the others. Prussians could be quite cool too. But yeah, it's quite cool because I've not got anything in the Napoleon period, if you will.
No.
So my first fantasy-esque foray into historical Napoleonics and Napoleonics in general. But yeah, I do like playing Sharp's Practice though. I've really enjoyed playing that. But that's mainly like War of Independence I've been focusing on with my collection. I don't think it'd be too difficult to like change. I mean, you don't even really need to change the rules for this because it's literally there's about 30 years, not even 30 years between the two wars. You could easily use these models, or use some of the American War of Independence models, and like set it in America, and yeah, just use because the units would be still fairly British in their makeup, if you will. Maybe have them and have some like of the Native American scouts in there as well, because there's some options for that, stuff like that. So you could easily set it in America.
Yeah.
That would be quite good actually. I got me thinking now. I want an American unit. It's got me thinking about it. Like, oh, that'd be cool. But yeah, so there we go. So that's the first look at the models. First look at the book. I doubt a look at the book. It's not quite my first look at the book. That'd be a lie. But if you're wondering about the points costs, etc., I worked it out that the British are quite heavy on points costs in this group, and thank you. I'll show you what I printed off. I like to have lots and lots of room to write and scribble on. So I overdid this with having like a lot of slots. I just knocked it up on Excel. So this would be the officer. And then you've got each of your units. Now the recruitment cost is what you're looking at, and you can recruit up to 100. That's what this means on the officer, they can recruit up to 100. So when you add up all the costs of all the models in this pack, it actually comes to 118. So you've got to drop either, to get exactly 100, you've either got to drop the Highlander or drop the Rifleman, who's 18 as well. But just to show you an example, warband all the way through. My captain, who is yet unnamed, might be something, I don't know, Captain Blunt, for instance. Major Blunt, maybe. So I've given him a hand weapon, 2 pistols, because you're allowed to take up to 2 pistols. What I'm not quite sure on is, I need to read into this, is when you upgrade a weapon to be silver or cold iron, for instance with the pistol, if you upgrade it, can you also shoot normal shot if you want? You don't run the risk of it breaking. I don't know. So at this point, we're taking 2 pistols and upgraded one to have cold iron shot. I need to look into that rule. I don't know. By the time I come to actually show you a game of it, I'll try and figure that out. But the hand weapon is a silver weapon. He also has a breastplate, even though it's not on the model. It's just because I had enough space left to give him that. He has the 2 skills of Combat Engineer, which I showed you earlier on, and Indefatigable, which means he takes a maximum of 1 fatigue token during the game. I'm not sure how good that skill is going to be over this. I don't know how many fatigue you take over the game. Having not actually played one yet. That's something we're going to learn. So I decided to give him that. It sounded cool. We'll see. And then we have our Highlander with his 18 recruitment points with a musket. Now this is given to you by the game. Musket, cartridge box, heavy weapon and pistol. And then you're allowed to take one of the specials for each of you guys. So I've given him the cold iron shot to go with his musket. So it's either actually an upgrade for a pistol or an upgrade for a cartridge box, to be fair. When I read it later on, I've put the star next to the musket, but it's the same thing really. The cartridge box is only used to reload a musket or a rifle. Oh yeah. Underneath that we have the infantry guy who's got a musket, cartridge box and the salt bag. We have the veteran hunter. Probably can't read this because it's done really like pencil, and I apologise for that. I should have either printed it or done it in pen. So this is a veteran hunter. So this guy's got a heavy weapon, pistol, breastplate, oils and torches. He's also strong because he gets an optional officer upgrade, and he's got a silver heavy weapon as well. So I'm hoping he does a lot of damage because the heavy weapon adds power dice and so does the damage. So he should be coming in quite hard. So in theory he should have a big 2-handed weapon, like a 2-handed axe, sword. The model's got a hammer and an axe. So if you wanted to be completely close to the model, you should give him 2-hand weapons, and you can make like the axe silver, and you can make take the ability that lets him take another special weapon. So you could have that as silver and that as cold iron hammer. That's one of the options, I think. I might redo it. That sounds pretty cool. We have the Rifleman, who just has a rifle. The rifle and the musket and the rules are identical. The 30 inches, they ignore 1 point of armour, and they all come with bayonets. And you can, like the book actually suggests, when you upgrade to have a silver weapon, you can have a silver bayonet. So it's always an option. Again, he has a cartridge box to shoot the rifle, and I've given him some silver shot to give him some range, because he does have a high accuracy, so I'm hoping that silver shot can handle against some nasty things. The Investigator, he has a fencing weapon, 2 pistols. He's a supernatural veteran, which gives him an extra special weapon slot, and so with that I've used the holy symbol and the cold iron fencing weapon. Seems a bit odd to have a really brittle fencing weapon, but there we go. We'll see how it works out. Probably snap the first time he uses it. Now we have the Artillerist Artillery Man. He's got a hand weapon and a pistol. I've given him some silver shot as well. And then we have the Doctor, who comes with a hand weapon and a pistol, as well as the medic ability. And you've given him a salt bag. I don't know what a Doctor would carry. It was either between like silver, because he might have had like silver nitrate, or salt. I don't know. But there we go. I've tried to sort of mix up the amount of like cold iron, salt and silver in the unit, so that they've got something they can use against various enemies. There we go. So all that comes to 118 points. When I worked out the Spanish models, they come to 104 points. And so if you take your officer and you give him the upgrade where instead of taking a courage upgrade, you take a +5 point recruitment upgrade, that gives you a whole extra model. So that +5 recruitment is actually bigger than it looks, because it allows you to take all these. I have filled out the officer, but I haven't filled out any of the other stuff yet. So My idea for the Spanish officer was to increase his speed, keep his melee high, and then give him the 105 recruitment so he can take everybody there. Hand weapon, a couple of pistols again. Give him faith, so all his weapons also count as blast. Give him a silver blade, because blast might only work on some things, whereas silver might work on other things. And just cover all spaces, give him some cold iron shot for his pistol as well. He also has hard to put down, which allows him to use some of those fate dice to try and save himself. So I'm hoping he's going to turn out to be pretty good too. But yeah, so that is my initial thought on the Spanish one. I need to decide what I'm going to give everybody else. It'll probably just be the same kind of mix of stuff to try and make sure that whatever they come up against, they've got something they can use. And that is it for now. I need to go away and play some games. And I shall, once I've played a couple, I'll video one for you guys. And hopefully by then these models might actually be painted too. So, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. And check this out, you can download a PDF for it as well. And no, I'm not on commission. I wish I was. You guys take care, and we'll see you later. Bye for now.